Iran is willing to promise never to develop nuclear weapons as long as the United States lifts all sanctions. Shamkhani, the political advisor to Iranian Supreme Leader Khamenei, made the above statement in an interview with a U.S. journalist. The United States and Iran have been at a standstill over the Iran nuclear deal for 7 years. Why did Iran ultimately choose to compromise? What was the purpose of Trump's insistence on competing with Iran? Trump announced that the United States was officially withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal and restored comprehensive sanctions against Iran. Since then, the two sides have been repeatedly engaged in disputes over the nuclear issue but have always found it difficult to reach an agreement. Over the years, Iran has also approached the red line set by possessing enriched uranium that can be used to make 6 nuclear bombs. In 2025, Trump brought up the Iranian nuclear issue again and used the method of maximum pressure to force Iran to make concessions. The United States hopes to reach a new nuclear agreement with Iran, and the Iranian side is no longer as insistent as before. Its attitude has begun to soften, and obviously, it also hopes to reach an agreement with Trump. The reason why Iran chose to send out a signal of reconciliation during Trump's visit to the Middle East is also to show respect for the face-conscious Trump. Because Iran has now deeply felt the crisis. Over the past few decades, Iran's confidence to confront the U.S. mainly stemmed from Russia's support and the foxes of resistance it cultivated. However, in recent years, the situation in the Middle East has undergone enormous changes. First, Russia's influence has been squeezed out, and the 3-year war has left Russia severely weakened, no longer having the energy to maintain a military presence in the Middle East. The political transition in Syria is a good proof. Additionally, Russia's strategic contraction is also reflected in its diplomatic relations with Iran. In January of this year, during the Iranian president's visit to Russia, a comprehensive strategic partnership treaty was signed. The most notable clause stipulates that if one contracting party is subjected to aggression, the other party shall not provide any military or other assistance to the aggressor that could facilitate the aggression. In other words, neither side can betray the other at critical moments. In contrast, the treaty signed between Russia and North Korea is a mutual defense military alliance, highlighting a stark difference. This implies that if a war were to break out in Iran, Russia might not come to its aid. Second, the 4 resistance forces cultivated by Iran in the Middle East have been largely crippled. The government of Jilani in Syria has stabilized its position with the support of Turkey, and the United States has lifted sanctions against it. The former Assad government forces, now deprived of external support, can hardly make new moves. The situation of Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas is also grim. Their leadership has been mostly eliminated, leaving the remaining resistance forces struggling to organize effective counterattacks. Although the Houthi forces still maintain strong combat capability, they have suffered heavy losses in recent rounds of airstrikes. Moreover, the Houthis have long seen through Iran's true nature and will not blindly obey its will. In short, Iran has now fallen into a lonely predicament, and all of this is of its own making. Back then, if Iran had taken decisive action to eliminate the Squid's military forces while Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis were fighting bravely, and pulled the United States into the fray, it would never have ended up in such an isolated situation. Currently, the United States has reached a ceasefire agreement with the Houthis, allowing U.S. forces in the Middle East to free up resources to prepare for a new round of strikes. Moreover, the Squid has long been ready to bomb Iran's nuclear facilities. Under such circumstances, does Iran still dare to remain defiant? Although Iran has a sizable missile arsenal, the recent India-Pakistan conflict has shown that once missiles are intercepted or jammed after launch, they are essentially no better than scrap metal. Iran was already hesitant to take action before, and now it has completely lost the will to resist. Moreover, under Trump's maximum pressure campaign, Iran's oil exports are shrinking. In the past, China helped absorb part of its oil exports, but now that China has access to low-cost Russian oil, it has naturally reduced imports from other sources. More importantly, Iran is now growing closer to India, and the joint development of the Chabahar port by the two sides is creating a competitive dynamic with China-Pakistan's Gwadar port. As a result, China's attitude toward Iran will naturally become more reserved. Therefore, Iran has brought itself to this situation entirely by its own actions. Next, it can only hope that Trump will show mercy and not be too harsh. According to Trump's style, he has been suppressing Iran for many years and will not stop without getting benefits. First of all, he needs Iran's compromise to reach a new agreement, which will become a major achievement in Trump's new term. During Trump's first term, the thing he did most was to undermine the political legacy left by Obama. And the Iran nuclear deal is a landmark diplomatic achievement of the Obama administration. Naturally, Trump will not miss the opportunity to hit his opponent. Moreover, Israel has long criticized that the Iran nuclear deal has failed to stop Iran's nuclear ambitions and has promoted the United States to take a tougher stance. Trump himself is very close to Israel and is naturally willing to cooperate with Israel to strike Iran. However, Trump deliberately bypassed Israel during this Middle East visit and reached a ceasefire agreement with the Houthis without notifying Israel, primarily to avoid being coerced by Israel. Additionally, he intends to force Iran to concede at the lowest possible cost. Military strikes are not his first option. As long as Iran is willing to yield, Trump may show leniency. Second, if the U.S. and Iran reach a consensus, there may be opportunities for cooperation. At the very least, Trump and the capital behind him may enter the Iranian market to seek collaborative development opportunities, which Iran would presumably welcome. As for Israel, if Iran continues to yield, Israel might forgive its past actions. However, in my view, Iran's outcome is already predetermined, as Ukraine once gave up its nuclear weapons.